Live, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. Good evening and welcome to the Strategy and Resources Committee. Today's date, the 13th of March. My name is Councillor Mark Durham. I'm the chairperson of this committee. Members, we're streaming this meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in the meeting, you're giving your consent to being recorded. During each item, please put your hand up to indicate if you wish to speak. I'll then invite you at the appropriate time. I'll ask members to avoid approaching the top table as this could cause interference with the camera and live stream. Please note the YouTube live stream sound recording is dependent on the correct use of microphones. Therefore, can I ask, when invited to speak, you remember to turn on your microphone, turn it off when finished. Please reference the page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers and keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. We don't have any fire alarm testing scheduled for this evening, so if you hear the alarm, please exit using either of the two marked fire escape routes. Once out of the building, please proceed to the designated muster point located on the grass verge by the police station entrance. Item 2, apologies for absence. Tara, do we have any apologies?
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies were received from Councillor Bown and Councillor Siddle, and Councillor Price is attending as a substitute for Councillor Bown, and Councillor Bassinger is attending as a substitute for Councillor Siddle. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Item 3, minutes. It's recommended that the minutes of the meeting held on January the 23rd of this year, found on the relevant pages, are approved as a true and accurate record. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Lagan. Councillor Fluker. Yeah, thank you.
Just in relation to 507, minute 507 that you'll find on page 6. I mean, there was a specific question asked, Chairman. And I think given the public interest in it, it's right and proper that that question and the answer is recording in the minutes. And the question was, had a consultation taken place between Burnham Surgery and the council regarding the car parking? And the officer reported no, and they went on to say that was the decision of members. And I think given the public interest in this, Chairman, I find it quite strange, Chairman, that those comments aren't recorded in the minutes. So I would ask that they are.
Councillor Fluker, I was not at that meeting, so I can't comment, but I will take it up with the clerk.
Well, Chairman, I'm proposing that it is, and I can hear that there is a mood around me that remembers the conversation quite clearly, and indeed what Miss Green said, and the invidious position that Miss Green was put in over this. Chairman, I'm sure you've noted, but I think Councillor Stamp raised her hand, so I'll give way.
Councillor Stamp.
Yeah, thank you. I remember it very clearly, and Councillor Fluke is right, and I think it should be recorded. I think it should be minuted, because it has created a huge amount of furore, and then obviously the subsequent meetings afterwards. So I think I'd support him for having that included in the minutes.
Well, if it is a case of accuracy, which I'm thinking it probably is, Councillor Fluke, we can certainly look into that, and we will look at the transcript of that particular meeting and include it in the minutes. So with that taken on board, is everybody happy that that is a true record? Thank you very much indeed. Public participation. I don't think we've received any notice of a public. Thank you very much indeed. I would just like to take this opportunity of thanking Councillor Driver for standing in for me in the last few weeks, which I don't need to go into, but it's not been the easiest few weeks. Still isn't, things still haven't been resolved, but thank you very much, Councillor Driver. Very much appreciated for your assistance. I'm just trying to get my mouse to work. Item 6, we now move to the first report.
Chairman, sorry, declarations of interest.
Oh, I do apologise. Declarations of interest, item 4. I'm getting ahead of myself. To disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, registrable interests or non-registrable interests related to items of business on the agenda having regard to paragraph 9 and appendix B of the Code of Conduct for members. And members, you are reminded that you are required to declare such an interest as soon as you become aware should the need arise. Any declarations of interest? None showing, so we will move to that first report. And that is... Yes, I know. Thank you, Councillor Fleetwood. Yeah. So that is item 6 to be found on page 101 to 102, amendment of the Market Hill Air Quality Management Area. We don't appear to have Mr. Dodson here, who I think was going to present that report.
I'll be taking this one, Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, Chair, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
Miss Wheatley, sorry.
presenting this one, thank you.
Thank you.
So this short technical report presented to members this evening relates to the revocation of the hourly mean measurement for nitrogen dioxide in the air quality management area at Market Hill. DEFRA states that if there are no exceedances of this measure over a 5-year period, the measure should be amended or revoked. As this air quality management area has not had an exceedance of the hourly mean measurement in this time period, officers are recommending that the hourly mean measure is revoked. However, the annual mean measurement would remain in effect. Our Technical Lead Officer for Environmental Protection is available this evening to answer any questions relating to this report. Thank you.
Councillor Fluker.
Thank you, Chairman. If one thing came out of this which was a benefit to everybody, and that's the fact that there's a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on Market Hill, and I can confirm it is enforced, Chairman. Chairman, I think this
I
is
won't ask you how, Councillor Fluker. £60.
Chairman, this is, this is a straightforward report. I propose we agree with the recommendation and move on.
Has anybody got any questions for the officer? I mean, this is fairly straightforward. It is a question. Yeah, Councillor Lagham.
Yeah, just one thing. If we haven't exceeded that level, does that mean that we shouldn't still keep a focus on those levels? And what amount of work is needed to undertake an hourly measurement? Is this just a system that sends into a database that logs, or is this something that's very labour intensive? Because obviously with the challenge that we have on Market Hill, I believe in the Guardian, it was one of the ninth most polluted street in the United Kingdom, and there has been improvements, but we still have challenges for the residents that live on that. So the question is there a plethora of work that this will save, or is this something that we're doing because DEFRA say we can? Thank you, Chair.
I'll let Ms Wheatley respond, but I think that part of the problem is that we don't have the equipment to monitor one of these particular criteria, do we?
I'll hand over to Mr. David Cant if that's okay, because he'll be able to answer that question for you.
Mr. Cant.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so we continue to monitor as we always have done. The amendment to the AQMA has been explained in relation to the hourly mean, and there's not a significant amount of work that goes into monitoring the hourly mean. It's really just comparing it to the annual mean. We take the annual mean as a proxy for the hourly mean because we don't have the kind of air quality monitoring station, the automatic monitoring station, which would be required to measure that directly. So it ultimately has very little impact on the work that continues to be done. Air quality levels will still be monitored year-round and reported to DEFRA as they always have done and will continue to be. So it's just an indication that things have improved since the air quality management area was declared in 2018, and it's a long-term trend as well. It's not just a one-off.
Councillor Fittock, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a general question. I mean, obviously it's referring to the hourly mean. I mean, that doesn't mean to say that we haven't got exceedances at given points of time, does it?
No, so we still have exceedances of the annual mean. So it's the level is monitored each month. Add those up, divided by 12, and you've got your annual mean. So it's those three. There's three particular points on the Market Hill within the air quality management area where we previously had exceedances consistently. So yes, there is still an air quality issue which needs to be addressed. The air quality management order will still reflect that, and our new air quality action plan, which will come this year, will still continue to address that by putting new measures in place to improve air quality.
Okay, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to understand is that I understand what the mean is. What we don't know is what the peak. Yeah. I mean, is there much peak exceedance of 60 still? Because it could well be that over 2 hours there's a high exceedance, and over the next 8 there's a very low.
Yeah, so the hourly mean is actually 200 micrograms not to be exceeded more than 18 times in a year.
Okay.
The diffusion tubes which we use cannot measure to that with that level of granularity. So a proxy of 200 to be exceeded over an hour is 60 as an annual mean. There's been shown to be a good correlation between those figures. So no, you're right. We don't know whether it's gone over 60 or 200 in any particular given hour, but there's a good level of confidence that if your annual mean is not over 60, then you haven't exceeded the hourly objective.
Okay. Councillor Stamp.
Quick question, where and how often will these figures be reported?
So the air quality objective, the target, if you like, or the limit set by DEFRA is the annual mean. So we can't report that until we've got a full year's worth of data. We have 2024 data, for example. We're just waiting for DEFRA to publish something called a bias adjustment factor, which just allows us to kind of validate and verify the data. That's then reported annually through our annual status report, which is published kind of publicly through our website and through the Essex Air website as well. We can, I think we've made a commitment to improve our communication of that report, particularly to members this year as well.
Chair, could I ask which committee it will come to? Will it come to this committee or will it go to PG&A to be actually audited and scrutinised?
Probably both, I'm guessing. I'm guessing both. I mean, so members, we're asked to agree this amendment. We don't really have any choice. This is a DEFRA requirement. Can I have a proposer, please, in a second? We do propose. So, Councillor Fluker, Councillor, all in favour, please show. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, next item.
Can I have? Although it's a DEFRA requirement, I don't know how their technical guidance. I just want to be recorded as dissenting against that decision.
Okay,
thank you.
All right, Councillor. The next item, page 103, is the pay policy. Who is taking us through this?
I believe it's Annette.
Annette, Ms. Cardy. You're currently on mute.
Sorry, I did that double click. Thank you. If I could introduce the pay policy, this is an annual statutory requirement which describes the approach of the authority to pay related matters. The statement must by law be updated annually and approved at council before being published on our website. There are specific requirements which must be included. One of these is the pay multiple, which is the ratio between the highest taxable earnings paid in the council and the median earnings figure for the whole workforce. The report currently provides this as a ratio of 1 to 2.8 as of September 2024, using the direct model that was in place when the report was written. However, we can now update the statement to take account of the new chief executive role. This means that the pay ratio will now be 1 to 3.9. However, this is still significantly below the government guidance of which recommends that there is no more than a 1 to 20 ratio. The policy also sets out that NDC are committed to paying the real living wage to the lowest paid staff, and also details the annual percentage pay increase. The pay award in there at the moment is a 2024-25, and the next year's 25-26 award will not be finalised until the normal negotiations between unions and the National Joint Council have taken place. If I could also note that there should be a small amendment to section 2.1 of Chief Officer Pay. The Chief Financial Officer, section 151 role, was omitted from this list, and this will now be added prior to approval at Council on the 3rd of April. The committee is asked to agree this pay policy statement with those two above amendments, one for the pay multiple for taking into account the new chief exec role, and the second one just on the 2.1 where the chief officer list of roles had the Chief Financial Officer Section 151 added. The rest of the pay policy is as stands, and if that could be recommended for approval to Council on the 3rd of April to then be published for our 25-26 statement. If anybody has any questions, thank you.
Indeed, we are being asked to agree this, which will then go to Council. Councillor Stamp.
Yeah, just a couple of points really, rather than questions. On page 113, 5.1, I find it a little bit confusing when in one of the points you use a monetary allowance and then you give a percentage increase. Could we not have both, or they're both the same? Because it says that the increase is 2.5%, but then the ones below the pay scale between A1 and J137, the monetary award was 1,290. I haven't had time to sit and work that out. I'd normally do that myself, but it would be better if, to me, there was some consistency on how it was reported. I'd also like to thank Ms Cardy, because she's given me a lot of additional information, because I like to know what I call how much the workers get paid and how much the managers and the people above are getting paid, to the actual worker and the comparisons for. Because it's the workers that really do keep us going. I'm not dissing managers. I think everybody's important. They all have their places. But I do think it's important we do keep an eye on that split. And the final one is, I found it a bit disconcerting in the fact that we don't do any, if you are employed at the top level of your scheme, level of your spinal column, I'm wondering if that's why we lose certain good people, because there's no increment to get a higher pay scale, is it? Because it says you are, unless I've read it wrong, Annette, I'll let Miss Cardy, I'll let you correct me. Is that why we're losing good staff? Because they're being paid the top of their column and then there's nowhere else for them to go. Is that what this means?
I think that, in fact, you could look at it in reverse, in that we do have, in line with most local authorities, we have a spinal point. So within each grade, there is probably about 4 or 5 spinal points. So upon taking a job or being promoted to a job, you start at the bottom grade, and each year you progress. So there is actually 4 years really on average that you progress in your salary. We are a small council, and opportunities to progress into the next role are going to be circumvented by being a small authority. We can't obviously have everyone keep moving up, as you know, we would never have the workers at the bottom. We do have matrix grades where we develop staff and they go between grades, and we are looking at other ways to bring in more development, and we invest in a lot of training, but I do think it's subject to, you do get to a point in your career that you must then develop and go for another higher job. It's probably more limited because we are quite small, but the good thing with councils is also that you can cross departments and you've got skills transfers, and we will invest in staff to develop. I hope that answers the question. If I could just go back to the first point, the spinal column point A1 to J37 in an increase of 1290, and the second point, we're above that, it's a percentage increase. These are governed by the National Council, who agreed these rates with the unions. So we have to put those through as they are. So if you're calculating the 1290, between those grades, it's a different percentage, so we can get the median percentage. But the way the National Council have provided the award for all councils that abide by it is that it is a static sum for those grades and a percentage for above that. For this year, the negotiations are around a percentage again, I think. So that's what it's always traditionally been. I think it was felt that the 2.5 increase, you would appreciate that for the higher grade, that's a much bigger amount of money. And that's why the sum was brought in for the lower grades, to try and bring them up, so to try and bring that pay multiple down, if that makes sense.
Councillor Stamps looks like she's itching
Yeah,
to
no,
come
no,
back
no.
on
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Annette, Ms Cardy. I do understand that, and thank you for the comprehensive reply. So just to clarify then, so the spinal column point A1 to J37, do they all get £1,290 pay increase?
Yes,
Good.
yes, they did. They all
They did.
get that. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you for supplying the additional information I requested.
Right, any further questions, members? We've been asked to agree this to go to council. Everybody in agreement? Thank you very much indeed. I'll take that as unanimous. Next item 8, which is the Splash Park performance, found on page 121. I will compliment the officer actually on the excellent appendix, which is very straightforward and clear. Mr. Butcher, I guess you're going through this? Have we? You're quite right. You're quite, yes, no, you're quite right. So, okay, Mr. Cookson, yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
This is the budgetary control, of course, yes.
Evening, members. I'm here to present to you the budgetary control report for Q3. That's for financial activity up to the end of December 2024. So, as per the financial regulations, we need to officers need to update you on the revenue and capital budgets to members on a quarterly basis. So, just wanted to let you know. I know in the previous two Strategy and Resources Committee, we've had quite a detailed report looking at all different variances broken down, and all that was that improvement was really welcomed. However, due to conflicting priorities in the finance team during January and February, such as the delivery of the audits to hit the backstop date and the budget setting, council tax setting, etc. for 25-26, a decision was made to apply just a light touch approach to Q3 budget monitoring. However, what that looks like in practice was that we still had budget meetings. I personally met with most of the assistant directors and budget holders as well to get an understanding of what was going on at budget level, really just to get some reassurance of what the forecast outturn was going to be. So I haven't been able to include the detailed budget commentary in there as well, and that's also due to an in-depth review of the coding of the budget structure that we're just in the middle of at the moment. We're making some major improvements in how the budgets are aligned, how the coding structure is aligned on the system, and unfortunately that I wasn't able to get that detailed budgeting information to present it in the tables that I had done previously, but to mitigate against that, that's why I met with everybody personally to understand what their forecasts are, just to give some reassurance to members. Yeah. So just moving on to section 4 then, so the revenue budget. So that just takes you on a journey there, just to show you where we started at the start of the financial year, 12.453. That was your original budget back in February 24. And then you can see your major budget adjustments there. These have already been approved at previous meetings, but this is just to bring you back up to speed as to where we are with the budget. So at Q3, against the budget of 12.9, we are anticipating an underspend on the revenue budget of £705,000. And that's an increase of around 232,000, which was reported in the previous quarter. So I think some of my notes don't quite stack up there.
Sure, Councillor Fluke will tell you in a minute.
Yeah. 705. Yes, apologies. I think the 232 is an older figure that wasn't amended when I got to the 705. So the 705 is correct, and it's the 473, which is the increase in underspend from the previous reported at Q2. So there's lots and ups and downs in the budget, but the major headlines to look at in terms of where that 473 has come from is an improvement of investment income. We're forecasting around another 170,000 in investment income, obviously due to prevailing interest rates being high, and also as well an increase in anticipated income from the planning budget. I know we reported quite a large underspend at the previous meeting, and I've spoken with the assistant director just to get an understanding of what's going on in that team with the income, and we've been able to revise that budget down. So there's an extra 150k there, and some increased income from waste as well, around 70k. So that's the majority of where that increase has come from. So just moving on to the, unless do you want to take any questions on the revenue budget now?
Councillor Fittock.
I might be moving. Sorry. Thank you, Chair. I might be moving forward a little bit too quick, but on table 4.5, table 1, it's got an MRP, MRP charge, which has brought us sort of a little bit more back into budget, hasn't it? Really?
No. So what this is your budget. So I'm talking about the original budget, and then how we've changed the budget, which was approved by members, and then we've got a new revised budget.
Okay, so what does the delay MRP charge relate to?
Yeah, because so MRP is charged in the following year of the capital expenditure. So we should have bought the waste vehicles in 23-24, and therefore MRP would have been charged in 24-25. We didn't actually buy the waste vehicles until July 24, so therefore that budget has to move into the following year. So that's why we've reduced the budget.
Okay, right, thank you.
So, members, any questions on the revenue side of things? Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Good on that.
Thank you, Chair. So just moving on to the capital budget then. So the latest capital budget of 8.892 million, that's what was reported following the November Strategy and Resources Committee, when we added in the leisure contract, and there was a few more projects added in, and that took the budget up to 8.892. At period 9, the capital budget is anticipated to underspend by 2.275 million. So again, I've sat with assistant directors and budget managers to have a look at the capital programme, look at where the progress is in the budgets. I wasn't able to meet with everybody, so there have had some additional information since then. I believe it's changed slightly, but not a lot. But I think where I'd like to point to is table 3, where you've got the project status, some of it completed, delayed. I think originally that was trying to be informative, but I think now I've talked with assistant directors, the project status of some of those has changed. So I appreciate this may bring up some questions, but just to provide some clarity. So where the, I said the parks, the 1.2 underspend in parks, that's actually parks and play equipment combined, and they are actually managed by 2 separate services. There are some projects that are classed as delayed, but looking back on it now, they're technically not delayed. I suppose it's all subjective what your class is being delayed. They are going to progress, just moving into next year. And looking at this capital budget now and speaking to assistant directors and budget managers, I think we can improve better in our budget profiling. I think we've put a lot of budget in the first year, and then it looks like we're struggling to spend it. But I think if you look at the capital programme, the size of the capital programme in comparison to previous 2 years, your capital spends around about £2 million, something like that. So to go up to a budget of 8 million is a lot more delivery to take on. It's a lot more for officers to take on. And that's reflected in the budget profiling. I think to profile the budget correctly over 1 or 2 or maybe 3 years of the projects and monitor against that, that's probably a more fair way to look at it. So we're going to improve that for next year when we set the capital budget. So yeah, I'm happy to take any questions on any of that. Thank you.
Members, any questions on the capital side? Councillor Fittock.
Yeah, I mean, I just have a general question. I mean, obviously, it looks like we're forecast to underspend on the capital, but that doesn't really represent a saving that can be offset against overspend in the future, does it? So are we going to completely readjust it? Because what I've noticed is that sometimes if there's a saving in one area, it's used to offset a cost in the other area. Well, that doesn't really apply, does it? Because if you've not budgeted forecast in the first place, then really you need to exclude that from the calculation when you're reporting back to show that there is actually, in reality, overspend. The underspend is going to happen. We're going to spend the money next year. So I'm just wondering how we're going to report this, because it could be quite confusing to understand whether we're in budget or not in budget.
Yeah, so this goes back to my previous point, is we set a budget, which probably should have been set better, but we set a budget all in 1 year. Let's deliver 8.892 million in 1 year. And that's probably not a fair budget. So what I'm demonstrating here is against that budget, we have underspent by 2.275. So to answer your question and move on from that, what are we going to do with the 2.275? Well, I understand some of the projects, after recent conversations and meetings, like the Strategic Assets Working Group, some of those projects are going to be removed. A few of those projects have been on the capital programme for a number of years, so they will come out of that budget. They may be replaced by other projects, other similar projects. And also as well, whatever's left over, I agree, will be reprofiled. So it's not as much that there is a saving, it's a saving, an underspending this year. It's more so about performance than actual savings. Yes.
Councillor Stout, basically we were a bit enthusiastic with our capital programme and we couldn't deliver.
Yeah. But I think that's probably more about how we've profiled it, not so much reflective of actual officer delivery. And I'm sure it's a bit of both. But I wanted to just say I think that it's fair that I point that out.
Councillor Stamp.
Yeah, thank you. To me, I got a little bit confused with this about whether it's delayed or what, and I was trying to think back to what the capital projects we'd agreed were anyway. So it would have been helpful for me, especially if it was backed up with some more information. I know you can't do that because that's not what you should be doing, Ben. But I just would like to congratulate you for being more accurately reporting. It's quite refreshing to me to be able to actually know what, as a council, we are spending and which budget line it's being put in, and not going from Peter to pay Paul, and it's coming out the notorious transformation fund. Well, it's this transformation fund, as far as I'm concerned, been elected, it must be massive, because every time anybody's wanted something, oh, let's take it from the transformation fund. So I would actually like to thank you, and everybody makes mistakes, so that little bit there I've just crossed out and put a line through it, so don't stress about it. But I totally agree with this.
Councillor Fluker.
Thanks, Chairman. I agree with what Councillor Stamp says. I said, since you've been here, the reports have been so much easier to understand. But one thing, I don't want to be the harbinger of bad news, but you're probably aware that they're interviewing for your successor, I think, on Friday. Are you content with the way that the council is progressing towards a handover? Because in the past, we haven't always had a good handover. So you might like to answer that by email, but I just hope that after all of your hard work, we do have a good, solid, strong handover, because in the past I know we haven't, and I think you didn't have a perfectly smooth one. And
one day.
Yeah, and it's not, it's just not acceptable. I know things happen, and you're probably looking at me and if only I knew where you were going next. But it would be so helpful if we had some kind of a structured handover.
I think that's probably noted. I'm not sure if you want to comment.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say thank you for the kind words, but I am committed to giving a handover, and as long as you want me here, I'll stay here. But I've just got to say that with myself and Tom and just how the finance team have just been refreshed. It's really, really positive. We've completed so much work recently, and there's real belief in the finance team now that, we can really get ourselves in a much better position, and we are in a much better position. So I'm looking forward to the new Section 151 coming in. I will give them a handover. I'd like to think that this positivity will continue.
So, that positivity and everything that you've just said has been noted by members, and it is appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fluker. Is it on the same topic, Councillor Stamp?
Yeah, it is really. I just would like to say that Ben knows that I've been the person on his shoulder, and you'd be you would be reassured that we have had the conversation about a handover and how it can be done. So good. I'd like to thank him and reassure the council, this committee, as well as the PG&A, which I sit on, that we are doing everything we can to make sure it is now the standard is being kept up. And we don't want to lose him, so we may be talking about that ourselves.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. Members, so we've got two recommendations. The recommendation little one is to note the revenue position, and little two, the capital position. Agreed on both. Thank you very much. We now move seamlessly into the item that I was itching to get. That's item 9, page 125, is the Splash Park performance. And I would say again, Mr. Butcher, an excellent and very clear appendix. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Durham. Yes, just bringing back the Splash Park performance for the previous season. We had a slow start to the 2024 season. Part of that was my misunderstanding from members' will and desire having the Splash Park open from the beginning of May. And then we also had the issue with the very high bacterial content that meant a further delay. So we were unable to open until we reached June. But when we did open in June, we were open full time, and we had a reasonably decent spell of weather and were quite profitable for that period. Throughout July and August, we then continued to be really profitable and had a very good performance throughout the main summer months. We stayed open for the first couple of weeks in September, and that was full time. And therefore we did as a consequence suffer some losses throughout that period, which I think in hindsight, the 2023 year, the previous one, we had an extended summer in September where it stayed reasonably warm. But I guess that's the unpredictability of the Splash Park, and as members know, when the weather's warm and hot, we tend to have very good performance, and when it's not, then we don't. And if you look at the 2023 year in its entirety, then that reflects the summer season that we had. I think the other point I just wanted to make to members this evening was that the Splash Park previously has been managed for the last 3 years with Places Leisure. That's been through a contract variation of the existing contract. And as members are aware, the Splash Park is now wrapped up in the new contract we have with Places Leisure, so that's for a 20-year period. Obviously, there's still the opportunity to feed in for members to the Splash Park performance and requests, as there is with any of the leisure assets that we have. And that could be done, what we're setting up imminently, rather than having the leisure contract working group. That will become a partnership board between officers, members and Places Leisure themselves. So we'll be able to collate any feedback from members and then reflect that in any adjustments that we want to make to the contract. That's all I have, Councillor Durham, but happy to take any questions.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. I mean, that table says everything, doesn't it? When the sun shines, we do really well. When you look at the July figure for last, or the year before last, and as against last year, it's huge. I'm going to go to Councillor Stamps first, then Councillor Spenceley.
Councillor Spenceley was before me, so I'll give way.
Oh, well, all right. Councillor Spenceley, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stamp. Well, I just wanted to offer congratulations. That graph is very encouraging. I warned Mr. Cookson when he first started, beware of the Splash Park, because it's one of the biggest bones of contention here, and it is a bit like a roulette wheel, and amongst us there are those who are happy to place our bets and set the ball spinning, Councillor Lagan among us, and really go for long opening times and hope that the weather gods deliver. The only downside is that water bacteria thing, which I think was an avoidable problem, but we thrash that out when it happens, so maybe we can pre-prepare with, I don't know, sort of an advanced testing regime for next year, but very pleasing outcome.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Stamp.
Yeah, thank you. Can we, members, or me, be reassured that we will be actually speaking to Places for Leisure and we will be setting the times that it's opened and not them? Because sometimes September, nobody's got crystal ball, you know what I mean, to be able to determine what the weather's going to be. But there are kiddies, private schools stay open, don't go back to school as early as what state schools do in September. And also you get the youngsters, like the preschools and things. So sometimes I think a little bit more flexibility for opening could serve residents that necessarily haven't got the opportunity to use it, because the little ones don't necessarily want to go with the bigger ones. So I would just actually ask if, when you have your board, which you've just explained, thank you very much, that we are taking members, especially the ones who use it, views into consideration, so we don't have the same what we had last time when it was closed, and it really should have been open. Thank you. That's only comment, not question.
Well, yeah, I'll let Mr Butcher come back in, but of course we're not discussing the opening time, we're reviewing performance. Mr Butcher?
That was the performance.
Well, we're looking back. We're not at the stage where we're looking forward yet, Mr Butcher.
I think just to assure members to mitigate the bacterial content that we had, we're going to be commissioning the splash park in April this year, ready for May. So even if we do have an incident where we have a very high bacterial or unusual water testing responses, then that will give us sufficient time to make sure that we are open in plenty of time. I think absolutely, as with the leisure centres, there's always that, they're through the working group and now through the board, there will always be that opportunity for members to feed in, and we want to make sure that dialogue stays open, particularly as we're in a long-term contract with Places Leisure, and we want the opportunity to feed in and make that work with members, officers, and Places Leisure.
Mr Butcher, I can remember when we were discussing this, we were talking about UV filters. Have we got those installed?
So they are, we don't have them installed at the moment, but there is significant investment going on that will be happening in the splash park, not for this season, but in the down season in 2025. So there'll be some green infrastructure investment that will hopefully mean that the splash park will perform carbon neutral or energy efficient with wind tulips and solar panels, and there is some other significant investment going on, which is profiled over the 20 years of the contract.
I mean, UV filtration is not hugely expensive in the scheme of things, and it totally solves the bacteriological. I would have thought it would have been anyway, that's for another matter, but I'm a bit surprised. Councillor Lagan's next, then Councillor Fluker.
Thank you. There's it was a good performance. That is shown again. The expenditure from the April and May were quite high, higher than the previous years in those periods of time, and also from 2022 we spent nothing. So the question is, why was that high last year? A couple of points for clarity, and also a suggestion for going forwards. As a grandfather that uses this facility with his grandchildren, it's well known that I didn't support the contract, but the contract has been let. I think we were in a predicament where we are. As I said, we have got significant investment in the asset in year 12, which makes perfect sense and it's good planning. But when you look at the splash park opening times, I've done some canvassing on what we did against what the possibility could be. And I think we definitely have to take it to the board about longer open hours on the days we've got. Because if you're open 10 to 4, you've got a 6-hour window. 10 till 5 or something, that just that 1 hour gives you that other opportunity with very little cost. So I think that's something that we really do need to look at. And canvassing again in June and in September, I can't see, as Councillor Stamper's actually said, and we haven't spoken about this, so it's quite an interesting statement, that there are the opportunity maybe to open it for one part of one day, 10 till 4 or something, 4 or 10 till 2, for a short window for the smaller children who don't want to be smashed to pieces by the bigger kids, the playgroup kids and things of that nature, which will bring a bit of revenue in as well, but also support residents and visitors. The final point is in the implications. I'd like to see the options put forward very clearly of being excluded to free sessions at the splash park. So looking at the criteria so that everybody can get an opportunity to use that facility, those people that absolutely need that help and support, and especially those with special educational needs, so for prison there, because the asset itself lends itself to that. So my question is well, my points are well done for getting it, even though we had a sticky start. Pleased to hear that we're going to do the testing way in advance so we don't get bitten by that bug. No pun intended. Sorry. I usually plan my one-liners, but I didn't that one. And the other one is, let's seriously look at having an extended periods of times. So instead of 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, it's going to be okay, and then having in June and September a window of 4 hours a day for them to open up for Littleys, so we can offer that opportunity for Littleys and people with special educational needs. So,
Thanks, Councillor Leggett. I'm guessing the expenditure in April, May was us trying to sort it out to open and sort out the bacteria, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly that, Councillor Durham. I think we had staff rotated to work that period, so they were cleaning the pad, doing other duties, and obviously we then had additional fees to pay for testing, additional chlorine, etc., etc. So those costs that you see in April and May are as a result of our the high bacterial content. And I take on board. I think there's yes, absolutely. We can, if you're not a member of the partnership board, we can certainly take any of that feedback to the board on your behalf and present that to Places Leisure. And the final point is, yes, we are already looking at concessionary pricing across the board. So they offer similar things for swimming activities during school summer holidays, for children who may be in receipt of free school meals, and we'd like to roll out a similar scheme at the Splash Park as well. So that's something that we're absolutely looking into.
I think when the board is set up, it should be taking directions from this committee, actually. But Councillor Fluker, you're next.
Yeah, I think most of what's going to ask been dealt with, but I mean, yeah, it was obviously a bit of a cash cow this has been, isn't it? Even if you look at performance over 3 years. So I presume Places or whoever wanted this within the globality of the new leisure contract. You know, I mean, I think council's already agreed to share details of the leisure contract with members generally now. That was agreed at last full council. So it'd be interesting to see that. But going back to some of the things Councillor Lagan said, I mean, you know, my question really is how much can we put on Places? Bear in mind this is due to open in presumably 3 weeks' time or 4 weeks' time. What have we, you know, what's in place at the moment with regards to the actual opening dates, the testing of the facility? Presumably that's already in hand, but maybe officers can confirm that. Thank you.
Yeah, the year is galloping on, Mr. Butcher.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Fluker. Yeah, like I say, we're looking to commission the asset in April, so that we won't avoid any, so that we will avoid any delays, and then we're ready to go for the May half term. The opening times for 2025 are listed within the report, and I think what I've said previously is it's easier for us to, or easier for Places Leisure to. Once it's in place and they have staff working, it's easier for them to increase it for an hour or two each day, as per Councillor Lagan's suggestion, than it is to mobilise them for a completely different period. I think also Places Leisure will also look to reduce costs whenever they can. So if we don't have any bookings or we've got severe weather, then we can move those bookings around accordingly. But we can. There is an opportunity, and I will have that conversation around potentially increasing opening hours, certainly for July and August, and that can be done on an almost once you start to receive the weather forecast on a weekly basis.
So, Chairman, just clarity. You keep saying we. My understanding was the letting of this contract was turnkey. So, you know, Places must be doing the testing, not we and us. I mean, I you know, at the end of the day, moving forward, we shouldn't really be doing too much other than telling them what we'd like to achieve, and for them to say whether that can be done within the confines of the contract. So perhaps you'd like to clarify that through the chairman. Thank
Perhaps
you.
it's the royal we, Councillor Fluker, but
Well, no, we won't be. I kind of refer to it as, I see it as a partnership rather than a contract relationship, and I think we want to work very closely with Places Leisure to achieve the outcomes that were set out within their bid.
But Chairman, with respect, it's up to them. We have a contract with the provider to deliver a contract. We shouldn't be really working with them at all unless it goes wrong. So I mean, unless of course you've got within all the figures that have been presented to council. I mean, has the council got a management fee in there which is charged back, or I find, perhaps, Chairman, as I said earlier, it's already been said that the contract will be released to members, but I don't see why, bearing in mind the overall terms of that contract, why we should be too heavily involved, other than by putting forward suggestions. Seems odd to me.
Well, I totally agree, Councillor Flick, and I think it's down to the terms of that particular contract which we need to drill into. Councillor Lagan.
Sorry, just a tiny one. You say the outgoing hours are in the report?
Sorry.
3.6.
Apologies.
Oh,
the times
okay.
are, sorry, the
dates
days are,
but
not the times. Yeah.
Hair's being split. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Do please, though, take away the conversation piece about opening for a day or half a day in June and September. Don't just discount it, because you can easily cancel that if the weather looks inclement. But I've got a feeling we may be surprised at the uptake on that. Or they may be surprised.
But I think, as Councillor Fluker is saying, that will be down to places to decide.
Yeah, but that's down to us to this. It says in the report, Chair, with respect, it's down to us to make through the council to say what we would like out of that contract, because this is a significant award, and the asset. I don't particularly care if it loses money in September. If people want to use it, they want to use it. We've got to get this balance, and we've got to get away from this absolute focus that everything has to turn a profit. And I know that the commercial team's role is to be commercial, but a member's role is to balance that. And we lost the lake, and we put in a facility to help replace that. And over the years, we've had to charge as a local authority, but we've got to start to be commercially focused, but with a community bias, because that's the only way. We're here for another couple of years. God knows what's going to happen. There's a contract that's going to be taken over by other people. People need to use this thing because it's cracking when it works. It's really good.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's under any illusions that when you're in those shoulder months, there's a risk of having a month that loses money. Well, that can happen in any business, can't it? That's the nature of it. I want to wrap this up, but Councillor Fluker.
Certainly, I'll go to the recommendation and help you. But Chairman, I was wondering whether or not this committee should also recommend that this. I forget now the term Mr. Butcher used, but this working group, whatever, what was it called? Board. That this board is set up as maybe correct me if I'm wrong, is anybody on it? Because I would have thought by now the members should be appointed to it. The contract, I think, is live. But either way, members should be appointed to it. Nobody appears to be on it from this committee, so I expect no members on it. So, Chairman, can I propose...
I don't think the board has been set up yet, has it?
Yeah, no, well, Chairman, can I propose then, if it hasn't, that you go to committee services and we have an agenda item for council so that we can decide which members are going to go on there and tie places down as to when the first meeting is going to take place.
Yeah, absolutely. In April 3rd, I think is an ideal timing for that.
For fears of seeing Councillor Lagan in his budgie smugglers, I would propose he goes on there. But, Chairman, to help you, I propose we agree the recommendation at 2. Thank you.
Okay. Everybody in agreement? Oh, Mr. Butcher, yeah. Well, hold up. Just members, please.
Just for clarity, Councillor Fluker, we have the Leisure Contract Working Group, which has been there throughout to support the pandemic and also throughout the procurement of the leisure contract. So the Leisure Contract Working Group, it was my intention that the members from that working group would form the first part of the board that would then start to set the terms of reference and look at the KPIs. And we have that scheduled for the 26th of March. But if you'd rather that came to council, then we can do that.
I tend to agree. I think we need to start afresh, and we'll name the people in the April council meeting. I can sort that. Thank you, members. So, are we happy to move on? Yeah. Thank you very much indeed.
I second that proposal, Chair. You've got to second it. Second it.
Well, it's seconded and agreed. Okay. Thank you. Item 10, page 131, the Planning Policy Working Group. We're being asked to note their report. It's gone very quiet. Who's
Chairman, Councillor Fittock is presenting that.
Councillor Fittock, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, the purpose of the report is to provide members with an annual update of the work carried out by the Planning Policy Working Group, during 2024-2025. And I think it's fair to say that it's been a difficult period because we've gone from the changes made by the previous government, quite rightly, to the MPPF and we've had quite a lot of delay over the past year while we tried to understand what the new government proposed to do. So I think all things being equal, the officers have done very well to get many of these policy items through to the best of their ability under those circumstances. And I very much thank the officers for the report that they've produced, and would recommend that we receive the content of the report.
Yeah, it's been an almost impossible task for that particular group with the MPPF, and I don't know if anybody's delved into the new planning and infrastructure bill that was come out the other day. I'm sure it's not going to bring us any good news.
No.
Yeah. So, yes, Mr. Stamp, Councillor Stamp, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I'm afraid I'm not as what's the word, nice about this report, really, in the fact that I feel, and I've put a thing, slow. I don't feel we've got value for money, particularly as it stands so far. I know I've not attended all the meetings, but don't forget when this group was set up, some of the officers were taken off, and it's not the officers' fault, to go somewhere else. So the start of this LDP review, which was supposed to be moving along swiftly, to me hasn't moved along swiftly at all. So I actually thank you for Councillor Fittock for his presentation, but I'm afraid I don't agree with this, and I haven't seen many policies, and all I ever hear is we can't make a decision because of X, Y and Z, which I'm not blaming the officers at all, but I just don't think we have gone very far with this. And I even asked about the transport strategy and the what's it when they're doing the research behind it? Oh, I can't remember, forgive me. What is it, the consultation? That's not even been commissioned yet because they can't, because of certain things that haven't already been agreed by this group or this council. So I'm sorry, I actually don't think it has moved forward.
Councillor Stamp, you certainly you know my views about the review of the LDP. I think it was premature, and I think this was premature because, you know, and I feel sorry for the group because the goalposts keep getting moved, you know, with monotonous regularity. So it's a very different environment now to when it was set up, and it may will change. Well, it will change even more, particularly with the planning and infrastructure bill and other little niceties that the government will bring us, and then of course local government reorganisation in a couple of years' time. So we will wait and see, but we have to note this. And I said, well done, Councillor Fittock. You've been, you know, paddling uphill, I'm afraid, but well done. Right, okay, thank you very much indeed. That brings us to the exclusion of the press and public. Councillor Fluker.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I just really want to speak against the proposal. So I think...
Well, let me read the bit first, and then when we come to the vote
well,
for
Chairman,
it.
I'm only forewarning you because often these things seem to be nodded through by assent, but I fear...
Well, I'll let you say your piece after we've done the statutory statement.
Right, okay.
So that under section 100A, so section 4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information, as defined in paragraph number 3 of part 1, schedule 12A of the Act, and this satisfies the public interest test. I so move. Is there a second? Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Stamp. So Councillor Fluker.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. I just wanted to refer the committee to the monitoring officer's guidance note on committee processes. Chairman, under paragraph 3.4.4, it says that a specific resolution must be passed at the meeting to the effect of why the matter is exempt, and officers must explain the nature of the exemption and also address the issue of public interest. Now, this is absolutely black and white. Chairman, I've looked at this report and I can't see any reason why. This council has a habit of saying because it involves financial information, then it should be exempt. Chairman, there are only 7 definitions of exempt information. That is not one of them. Chairman, to give weight to my argument and to speak to other issues, Chairman, you will remember that, I can't remember if it was full council or this council, but we actually had a report come to us, which, not surprisingly, confirm how much money we were going to spend on the dredging at Hyde Quay, 153,000 quid, which we actually put into a public document before we'd even gone out to tender. So, Chairman, I really don't know with regards to item number 13. And I think, Chairman, if one looks at the balance of public interest, it's the case the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing it. Now, in this particular instance, we are talking about taking a huge amount of money from our reserves to spend on the building, which might not even be in the public realm in 2.5 years' time. I mean, that in itself, Chairman, adds so much weight to public interest. And it really concerns me that this council or this committee, if it does proceed in the way that we're proposing, we could be acting in an ultra-virus way and in any event not complying with our own monitoring officer guidance notes.
Well, thank you.
And it's I can't, I'm fairly open-minded about these things, but I can't see it in this instance.
Are you just referring to item 13? Are you satisfied that item 14? Or does 14 come up? Well, this is for the members to...
The events one, again, I don't really understand why, but the crux of this is, Chairman, and it goes down to 3.4.4 of the guidance notes, which clearly says paragraph 1 of the report should say why it's exempt, and all we ever do is say it's exempt. And that, I'm afraid, that's ultra-virus.
Well,
okay. I've had conversations about this, and I've got to bother.
Can you put your microphone on, Councillor Flew, because we're not in private. Well,
yeah. Yeah, don't mind. So the thing is, Chairman, in the back of my mind, Chairman, is a word, and it's a word that I don't like, and the word is concealment. And I think this local authority at times, and I believe this is an instance, where the council conceals information under Section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972 when it shouldn't be. And this is a classic case where the public need to know.
Councillor Fluker, you've expressed very eloquently your belief. Councillor Stamp?
Could I actually ask, has these two papers gone through via the monitoring officer?
Yes,
have they made that decision?
The monitoring officer reviews all cases where it's
fine.
Private and confidential.
And they support that it goes under B&C?
It wouldn't have been there otherwise.
Well, Chairman, I'm reading the monitoring officer's guidance notes. And,
well,
and
I can't change that, Councillor Fluker, but I can say that this has gone through the monitoring officer.
Well, Chairman, then all I'll say is the officers are still required under the council's own guidance note to explain why it's exempt. The monitoring officer hasn't said this is exempt. There's nothing in there where paragraph 1 does not say anything about it. Should say a specific resolution. I'm very uncomfortable about this. I wonder, Chairman, whether or not you should defer these matters and have a long conversation. I'm happy to meet with you and show you these notes.
I don't know what you're talking about. Councillor Fittock.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'll be honest, I do agree in principle with Councillor Fluke in as much I can't really see any particular matter that would be a concern if it's in public eyes. However, if the 151 if the monitoring officer said that it should be P&C and we move away from that, we're probably at greater risk than if we stay with it. So I would say that we should stick with the advice.
It's for members to decide. So, members, I have proposed the exclusion of public and press. It is seconded. So I need a clear vote. Those in favour of moving into private session.
I propose a private, I propose a recorded vote. So I don't want to be accused of being ultra-virus by
Members, are you happy that there's a named vote?
Yes.
Okay. Miss Bird, can we do the necessaries for a named vote, please, for this?
Yes, Chairman, of course. Can I just clarify just for this particular item, just for item 13?
Well, Chairman, in theory, Chairman, we should go to item, according to our own guidance note, there should be a separate exemption for every item. And on the exemption, it should say exactly why. The officers, it says here, the officers actually have to give the reason. But, Chairman, it also goes on to say that the directors should test that, not the monitoring officer. It's in here. It says the directors should test the officer's decision to have it exempt. And it also says, Chairman, and it also says that wherever possible, we shouldn't use section 100A, and anything that is considered to be exempt should be in a separate appendix. It's in these guidance notes, black and white. So I am very unhappy about this.
So, we are going to have a name. Councillor Pratt, is it on this? Because we are spending now a lot of time debating a procedural matter.
My concern is that when you are going to be going out to tender, that to declare how much money we've got in the bank is a reason to be in confidential.
Right, no.
It's a dredging contract.
You've called for a named vote, so we are going to vote on whether we move into exclusion of public and press. Miss Bird, would you like to conduct the vote, please? It's not
Chairman, but sorry, I just need to clarify. In relation to just that one particular
just 13, and we'll deal with 14 in a minute.
That's fine. Yeah, thank you. So if you could indicate for, against, or abstain on it for your names, please, members. Starting with Councillor Bassinger, please.
For.
Councillor Driver.
For.
Councillor Durham.
Abstain.
Councillor Fittock.
Or
Councillor Fluker. Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Against.
Pardon?
Thank
Against.
you. Thank you. Councillor Lagan.
I've got to abstain, Tara, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lay.
For.
Councillor Pratt.
For.
Councillor Spenceley.
For.
Councillor Stamp.
For.
Councillor Thompson.
For.
Okay.
So the results of that, Chairman, are 2 abstentions, 1 against.
Okay, thank you. So we are now in private
8-4,
session.
sorry.
Can we turn off the live feed, please?
Yes, Chairman.